I find it funny that Sega came out with an official timeline of events around the same time I started getting invested with the Sonic lore. And while I think this timeline is pretty good, I want to talk about my issues and potential problems it might have. If you agree or disagree with me, or if I've said something that's blatantly wrong, I'd like for you to tell me down in the comments below. This is more of a sit down and talk kind of video, so grab a drink or a snack and listen to my problems with the official Sonic the Hedgehog timeline. I don't know how to feel about Sonic 4 being here, mostly because it's just a rehash of Sonic 1 and 2. It's not that I have an issue with the game itself, other than it being like really mediocre, but it's a part of a problem that I think Sonic lore will have in the future. And it's that they seem to be going with the whole everything is canon approach, and I don't really think that's a good idea. Because there are tons of Sonic games made with many different visions of the story, and trying to retrofit all of these games together causes a lot of continuity issues. People discuss about whether or not the Game Gear games are canon, and no, I don't think they should be canon. These games are littered with a whole bunch of inconsistencies and contradictions. First off, there's practically nowhere to place them in the timeline. None of them can take place before Sonic 2 because it's the first time Sonic and Tails meet. And I don't think they can take place before Sonic 3 because, as far as I know, 2 and 3 happen within close proximity with each other. And even if there was a decent gap in time between both games, Eggman probably had to dedicate that time fixing up the Death Egg. Sonic Triple Trouble, the game people consider canon because of Fing the Sniper, has consistency issues because Knuckles is an antagonist, which makes zero sense because at the end of Sonic 3, him and Sonic are chill with each other. So there's no reason why they should be fighting over anything, let alone the Chaos Emeralds. And I also feel like it undermines the whole story arc of Sonic 3 as well. In case this gets brought up, Adventure gets a pass because the only reason why he attacked Sonic was because Eggman told him that he's looking for the pieces of the Master Emerald. Which is a dumb reason, but the Master Emerald got shattered to pieces, and he's supposed to be protecting it with his life. So of course someone like Knuckles would act irrationally. Speaking of the Chaos Emeralds, these games go back to having 6 Chaos Emeralds you have to collect, or 5. So unless the 7th one decides to fuck off sometimes, there is no way they can take place after Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Spinball also has this problem, but instead of having the issue with 1 or 2 less Chaos Emeralds, the game makes you collect 9 more. So unless there's actually 16 Chaos Emeralds, there's no reason why it should be in the main timeline. Which brings me back to my main point. Retrofitting all of these games in the main timeline requires so much mental gymnastics that they might as well just exist in their own vacuum away from canon material. This is the best way to solve this issue to me, because these games are only consistent with each other, so lumping them all into one little canon or timeline wouldn't cause any issues, or would cause less issues. You can apply this approach to some of the DIMPS titles too. Ian Flynn mentioned he wasn't allowed to talk about Sonic Pocket Adventure, so the canonicity of it is up in the air. Or you can just toss it into a different canon with the 3DS titles and what I like to call the DIMPS timeline. Let's be honest, there's no way Generations and Generations 3DS don't happen at the same time, and neither does Colors and Colors DS. Of course, this suggestion isn't 100% perfect, but it gets rid of most of the issues I brought up earlier. Most of them. Sonic Rivals is a game that gets brought up into this discussion because it's the first time Silver appears after the time reset in 06. But there's a problem with those games because they have one big contradiction. In Sonic Rush, we learn about Blaze's universe, which fans refer to as the Soul Dimension. Eggman has a counterpart in this dimension who's the main antagonist in both Rush and Rush Adventure. He comes back as the main villain in Sonic Rivals. However, instead of being from Blaze's universe, he's now one of Eggman's descendants and is from 200 years in the future, just like Silver is. Which completely contradicts his backstory from Rush, a game that is on the official timeline. And that brings up a few questions. Is he from the future, or is he from another dimension? Are these two the same person, or are these guys two separate characters? Maybe he is from the future, but decided to live in the Soul Dimension. But that wouldn't make any sense because Sonic doesn't seem to recognize him at all. And if I'm not wrong, he doesn't seem to have the same motive as well, so there's no way to explain this retcon unless you consider it non-canon. And I might sound biased here, but is this really where Silver should make a comeback? You know, a semi-important character like him, who stands right next to Sonic and Shadow, making his grand return in a PS Vita game with a really, really bad story. TLDR, not every game should be canon or have to fit in the lore, because otherwise there would be a ton of inconsistencies and retcons, and I believe the timeline itself would be bloated with a bunch of unnecessary filler. Just because a game or another piece of media introduces a character doesn't automatically make it 100% canon. Like how people were confused at Amy name-dropping Styx at the end of Frontiers even though Boom obviously isn't in mainline continuity. Like no, the Styx Amy mentioned is not the same Styx in Sonic Boom. Just like how Sir Lancelot isn't the same Shadow from the main timeline. Just like how these two Sonics are not the same character.
I like to call him Classic Sonic. That's how Sonic looked in the past. This one here, that's the Sonic he grew up to be. Now, as to why there are two Sonics running around... Tails, you've been researching that. Care to explain?
Right. So, a little while back, Dr. Eggman and his younger self used an ancient being called the Time Eater to mess with all of space-time. The Sonic of the past and the Sonic of the now had to team up to defeat the Eggman. Eggmans? Anyway, as usual, Sonic and Sonic saved the day. We set our device, and Classic Sonic safely traveled back to the dimensional portal to his own time.
Are we dead ass? There was a theory that the events of Generations caused a split in the timeline, which led to the events of Mania, Forces, and Mania Adventures, or Encore Mode. I don't know which one is canon or not. Turns out that theory was wrong, and Mania did happen in the main timeline. And I have a lot of issues with this because it's another thing that raises questions that can't really be explained without half-baked answers. I know time travel has always worked like this in the series, but I feel like Sonic saw way too much for it not to change stuff about the continuity or the main timeline. He didn't know Wisps existed until Colors, but he's technically already been to Planet Wisps in Generations. And I refuse to believe Sonic was in Crisis City thinking, man, it's been generations since I've been here. Obviously, nobody could predict that a game about time travel would come out one day, so those discrepancies aren't that much of an issue to me. And if the whole classic Sonic stuff was a one-time thing, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But it's the fact that they brought him back in Forces. And it's not like in Shadow Generations, where Shadow went in and out of Sunset Heights with zero context. Classic Sonic was literally one of the main characters in Forces. Like, he was right there and witnessed everything. So now we're left wondering, if a younger Sonic experienced Forces, then why doesn't he recall what happened in it? And if he did forget, why did he forget such a big event like Eggman taking over the world? Unless he didn't forget, and he kept it in his head, which could be why he didn't really give a fuck when he was supposedly being tortured. Maybe the answer really is that simple. He probably couldn't tell anyone right away, because right after Forces, he had to deal with the events of Mania Adventures, or Encore Mode, or he decided that he didn't want to tell anyone. I don't know, that sounds like something he'd do. Like, I get not every little detail needs to be explained, and that's why headcanons are really fun to make, and all of that would not bother me if it wasn't for one small problem. One tiny inconsistency, one minuscule contradiction that keeps me up at night. The reason why Classic Sonic was in Forces was because of the Phantom Ruby, which basically all it does is warps reality and creates illusions. Let me repeat that. Warps reality and creates illusions. In no way does it state that it can travel time. I went to the wiki to fact check this and see if I was missing something. And supposedly the reason why the Phantom Ruby time traveled was because it reacted to the Chaos Emeralds. And for a moment I was thinking, yeah, that's a simple answer. I thought a little bit more. Why did it go into the future? And there's no reason why it conveniently drops right near one of Eggman's bases. And it raises even more questions, like why doesn't he remember it? And why did Classic Sonic get sent to the future later in the story? Like, I get they didn't really care about the story, but damn, Lost World had better care of the story it was trying to tell. Forces is literally just plot convenience and bad writing. Alright, so that's it. That's all. Because my head is spinning just thinking about it. These are just my issues with how Sonic canon is being handled and what I personally think are the flaws of this story. I don't know how people can complain for more than 10 minutes. So I want to share my thoughts and additions to the official timeline. Knuckles Chaotix is 100% canon, and I personally think it takes place a little after 3 Knuckles. Sega's Sonic the Hedgehog can literally be placed anywhere in the timeline, but to be honest, I'm putting it after Chaotix just cause Sonic the Fighters has the same issue as Spinball, but Honey the Cat is a playable character, so Sonic R I feel like should be at the very end of the classic era. It's like the last game to have the classic designs, and it was the last Sonic game to be on the Sega Saturn. And the game itself has a really sad and nostalgic feeling about it, to me at least. It kind of has the feeling like it's an end of an era, or maybe I'm just overthinking it. Secret Rings, I feel like, assuming Rivals isn't canon, comes right after 06, and Black Knight comes right after Unleashed. I'm not including Prime because I never watched it. I don't really want to. And those were all my thoughts relating to the Sonic lore. I hope I didn't come off as too negative because really these aren't that much of a big deal to me, besides Rivals. But yeah, I'd like to make more Sonic content like this in the future. It'll probably be a bit before my next big video project, but I have smaller scale videos planned that won't really take a while to edit. Anyways, I'm Ghost Toaster 224. And I'm saving up money to take my girlfriend to Spagonia.